What is up, Bucketheads? It's Joe with at CBB DFS. How we doing today on a Monday? Happy New Year to you all. Hey, we got a weird 3-game slate tonight. It's small and it's starting at 7 p.m. So that gives us a little bit of extra time. So I thought, hey, why not produce a little YouTube video to cover the 3-game slates? Bird wrote up his game, James wrote up his game, I wrote up mine. We got a written content, getting ready to hit that submit button. But since I had all the information, I've read through it all. Let's put together a quick PowerPoint, run through this game. So thought it'd be a good idea. Hope you enjoy it. This would be for those who don't want to necessarily go through the reading, but I'll try to move. I'll try to move through it quickly and give you some tidbits on what we like, so we can start this week off right, and more importantly, 2021 off right. So why don't we get to it? We got a Monday mini slate is what I got it called here. It's a 15K big jam. 3K is going to first, so that's a $3,000 we'd all like a part of. Before we move a little further, as you can see, I'm wearing one of the CBB DFS hats for today. Want to give a shout out to Tanner Reese, who listened to our pod, entered our contest, finished highest with the CBB DFS logo on his DK handle, and we sent him a hat, and I think it got there right before Christmas. So congrats, Tanner. Thanks for listening. Thanks for following. And all right, let's get into the slate. Again, we're talking about a 3-game slate, and we're going to open it up at 7 o'clock with Maryland, Indiana. This points in the paint feature is just to look at the lines and some key things we need to know going into the game. First off, Vegas has the Hoosiers as a 5-point favorite. That's important to know as this game is being played in Indiana. The over-under is a 136.5, which is the middle of the 3 games, but not that great. But when you have a small slate, beggars really can't be choosers. Maryland has actually won the last 3, but this is a much different Maryland team than we've had in the past. And it's interesting because both these teams come in under 500 in league play. Indiana's at 1-2, Maryland's at 1-3. It just is a reminder about how brutal the Big Ten is going to be. Teams that finished 500 in the league could end up being 4 or 5 seeds in the tournament, just because this league's going to be super tough. A lot of places for quality wins and a lot of places to build resumes, and this game is no exception. So one more note on here that I have written down: Maryland and Indiana are 305th and 299th in tempo. So there's not going to be a ton of possessions here. They're solid offensive teams, but just keep that in mind, that you're not going to get a lot of possessions in this game. First, let's take a look at Maryland. Maryland is pretty evenly priced. Donta Scott's at 7,300, which I believe is a max price for him on the year. He's followed by Wiggins and Ayala. They're both okay, and James writes that up in the article, saying he doesn't really love either at that price, but they're both okay. Morcell is out with a fractured foot. That's important to know because we can find some value here in Hakeem Hart and Jarius Hamilton. Both these guys are sub 5,000. Both these guys will see increased minutes in Morcell's absence. Very different players. Hart's a shooter who can break a slate. Hamilton is a really good post player who had a great outing last time out. So good place to save some money there if you're looking at Hart or potentially Hamilton. Now, on the Indiana side of things, no surprise here. It's all about TJD. Trace Jackson Davis is $9,000. That's about where he is normally. That's about where he sits. Now, he has been under 4X in his last 2. That might scare some people away, but there's no reason or nothing threatening about this matchup. James specifically points out in the write-up that Maryland isn't a world beater defensively. So this is a spot where TJD could potentially get right at home. And as you can see, he's got that gaudy 31% usage, that 29% shot share. He's averaging 20 and 8. Good play, good spot for a couple of blocks too. So it could be a good day for TJD. I actually picked him in my prize picks to go over 33 as we each pulled out our prize picks for the day, which is at the end of each written article. After TJD, Armand Franklin's priced up a little bit, but he's been playing well. So he's earned that price adjustment. More of a 4X option probably here. Race Thompson is kind of hard to trust at this point. He's at 6,400. So I'm probably looking a different direction from Race. Durham has some position flexibility. He's at 6,300. As you can see, his minutes are awesome, 31.3. That's second on the team, but you're not getting a ton of usage out of him. 18.5. You'd like to be that a little bit higher. That being said, he does assist a little bit. He does rebound a little bit. Pretty good player all around at 6,300. There's worse directions you can go. And then the last note on here, and this was stolen directly from James's article, Trey Galloway has replaced Finney in the starting lineup. Now, against Penn State, Finney responded and had a really nice game coming off the bench. But at 4,300 and 4,400, there might be an option there to find someone you like and maybe find a hot hand. Again, that's that price saver, which we're going to need a couple of guys like that if we're going to go get TJD and others on this slate. The next game on the docket, this one actually has the highest over-under, and that's because West Virginia is, Oklahoma State's not afraid to play paced up a little bit. Vegas has the Mountaineers as a 2-point favorite. The over-under here is 142.5. And West Virginia has actually won the last two, but Oklahoma State won the last three prior to that. These are two teams that are familiar with each other. They're Big 12 conference foes, so it should be a pretty fun game. Now, the big news on the West Virginia side, this broke over the weekend, and they played a game without him, but Oscar Schwebe and West Virginia are done. Their relationship has been severed. So obviously he's not going to play, and it doesn't sound like, according to Bird, that he's going to be welcome back anytime soon, if at all. So expect him to be one of the key transfers in the offseason next year. But as it affects this game, West Virginia is still trying to figure out who they are without Schwebe. He was struggling this year, but they still knew where he was on the floor and they knew their roles around him. So as they adjust to that, we're going to see some inconsistencies, especially in Culver's last game. In theory, Derek Culver should have eaten last game, but he had 2 points, 6 boards, and 7 turnovers in their loss to Oklahoma. So I expect him to be better than that today. We'll talk about him and his price when we get to West Virginia, but that's something we're going to keep a close eye on because there's still value to figure out and maybe somewhere we can exploit today on the West Virginia side of things. Both of these teams are 1 and 2 in Big 12 play, so this is a really important game if they want to get a better seed for the conference tournament and make themselves known in the conference. Oklahoma State's coming off a really good win at Texas Tech. I like them in this game as West Virginia still tries to figure it out, so might be looking at the money line if that looks advantageous. Finally, last bullet I have on here is the Cade Cunningham and Isaac Likely DFS impact. These are two guys that get you DFS points very different ways. It's just a fun internal study of how you accumulate DFS points, and both are very playable. Let's look at West Virginia first. As we mentioned, Schwebe's no longer with the team, so he's been completely crossed out on our board here. And Culver comes in at 8,200. That's a big number given his outing last time out, but he is the team's leader in usage. He's second on the team in shot percentage. Actually, given the minutes, you might as well call him first there. Everyone knows Taz Sherman likes to come in and get up shots. He got up 16 shots yesterday. So at 4,600, Taz Sherman, someone who's not shy and could get loose. He's averaging double figures. That's interesting. So is Sam McNeil. He's at 10.3 points a game. This is a guy who can absolutely get real hot. Remember, he lit up Kansas earlier in the year. But we're picking and choosing which GPP dart we want to go with if we're looking to go that direction. Culver, I think, is due for a bounce back. He might be a low-owned GPP option tonight, someone who could do really well against a paced-up team. But at 6,600, I think Miles McBride is the play. Miles McBride plays all the minutes. He rebounds, he assists, he gets steals. He's just a really good player. He's hitting almost 40% from deep right now. And at 6,600, for someone who's clearly the number 2 on this team, that could be an interesting spot for McBride. Now, as far as direct impact to Schwebe, there's 2 things we got to mention. Emmett Matthews got an increase in shot load, so the offense kind of went on him for 5,300, which is important to know. Not the most profound offensive player, but a bump is a bump nonetheless. Now, Jalen Bridges, you see him all the way down there at 3,900. He got the start for Schwebe, and he had 30 DraftKings points in 27 minutes. Now, Bird warns in the article that might be a little bit of fool's gold because I think he went 5 for 5 from 3 in that game, but prior to that, he was 1 of 11 from 3. So Jalen Bridges got the opportunity, made the most of it, has not really been priced up. So at $3,900, he's going to be owned by everyone tonight. Anyone who's done their homework is going to have Jalen Bridges in their lineup. Rightfully so, probably. But he can't really expect that 30 DK at this price. He needs 18 to hit value. I think that's going to be just fine. Now, what we were expecting on our pod on Saturday is Gabe Usabian would be the guy who would benefit the most from Schwebe's absence. That didn't really shake out that way. Usabian's a tryhard. He works his ass off, but he's not someone that we can necessarily trust to get a lot of offensive production. And as according to Bird, his role really didn't change at all in that game. So he is priced up to 4,500. That's a pretty good spot for someone. I think the jury's still out on if he's going to make any significant jump with the Schwebe loss. In theory, he should a little bit, but at 4,500, maybe we wait and see a little bit. You see that 8% shot share. This is not an offensive minded guy, but it is a guy with 5.5 rebounds that gets super active, gets steals, someone you can look at to fill up junk stats. But like I said, it's hard to justify playing Gabe over Jalen Bridges from what we've seen so far. On the Oklahoma State side, really there's 4 guys I want to talk about here, and that's about it. Cade Cunningham is a freshman stud, 18.7 points per game, 5.8 rebounds, almost 4 assists, 1.3 steals, almost a block a game. He's probably the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. At least top 5 for sure. He's fun. He's a pleasure to watch. So if you get a chance to take him in tonight. 8,500 is a pretty good price for someone who's going to play all the minutes and get all the points. Now, right underneath them for 800 less is Isaac Lili. I always struggle with his name. He again plays all the minutes, but he's only he's $800 less. However, he's not nearly as offensively gifted, nor does he look for the shots like Cunningham does. You see that usage rate of 16.2 and 13.5, and that's stunning for someone who's almost $8,000. But then you look at his ancillary production, 11 points through default, 8 rebounds per game from the guard spot. That's awesome. Leading the team or close tied with Cunningham with 3.7 assists. He gets steals. He's just a really good player, takes care of the basketball. Like Alili is something at 7,000. I think Bird has him in his prize picks tonight to go over the prize picks total, but still you're probably looking at a cash game only for 7,700. I'm not sure there's a ton of GPP upside beyond that, given the lack of offensive ability. The last 2 I want to mention here are Avery Anderson, who's 5,100, and Bryce Williams at 4,900. Anderson is really hot of late, so game logs are going to probably push him into a couple of lineups, whereas Williams is probably the better player, has a little more steal upside, and is 200 less. So if you're want a piece of those 2 in the highest over under, and maybe you're stacking this game in a couple of ways, Bryce Williams would be lower owned than Avery Anderson in theory, and probably even could have a better day. So something to keep in mind. Yes, Anderson's game logs are better within the last 2, but overall we like Bryce Williams a little bit better here. The rest of the guys there, you're really just hoping. You're fishing in a dry pond, hoping something's buried in there deep. Bird recommends really not going outside of those 4 in his article, and I agree with him. He's our Big 12 guy. He would know best. Now, the last game on the docket, as I move through this rather quickly, is Colorado State and San Diego State. This is a fun game because they just played Saturday on national TV, if you were flipping through Saturday afternoon. And Colorado State fell down 26 points and then rallied all the way back and won the game against San Diego State. Vegas has San Diego State, who have dropped out of the top 25, as an 8-point favorite, and the over-under is 134.5. They hit 137 on Saturday. But again, it was John Tonji's 4-point play at the buzzer that put the Rams on top for good. Mitchell missed a 2 that would have given them the win, but overall, it was an amazing comeback for Colorado State and an amazing game. It was actually the biggest comeback in Mountain West Conference play history, is what I read today. So it's weird. The way the Mountain West is doing their conference game is it's double headers, or they're calling them series. So these 2 teams are in San Diego State playing a series. They played Saturday, they'll play today, and that'll end the series. Colorado State is currently undefeated in the Mountain West Conference. This is another big game. Can they get a second win at San Diego State, or is San Diego State going to be pissed off and going to exact some revenge? The Aztecs have won the last 5 prior to that loss on Saturday. As far as some player notes going in this game, David Roddy for Colorado State has 3 straight double doubles. He had 15 and 12. Matt Mitchell is someone for the Aztecs that has the second highest usage on the slate. He didn't play all that great on Saturday, so maybe he's in for a good spot. Another guy who didn't play that well on Saturday is Nathan Mensah. And looking at his game logs, it's crazy. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit, but it's very up and down. Now, Colorado State naturally isn't a team we know a ton about, but just in our little bit of research, Isaiah Stevens, guard 7,400, is their lead dog. When he passed up the game winner to Tanji, the write-ups were all surprised because he's that alpha guy that goes and gets that big bucket. So Isaiah Stevens at 7,400 plays tons of minutes, has good usage, has top 20 assist rates nationally. He's averaging 6.1 a game. So he's someone who's very much in play in this game. David Roddy, we mentioned 3 straight double doubles. Guard forward is a nice little event, a nice little perk there. But at $8,800 in this slower paced game, I don't know. He's averaging 16 and 9. He had 15 and 12 against him Saturday. I think you can look that direction. That's a lot of coin to play when Trace Jackson Davis is $200 more. Kendall Moore and Thistlewood are the older guys on this team, and they're juniors. They, I think, combined to go 7 of 12 from 3 last game, but that was really an outlier. I mean, they're good shooters. That's what they bring to the team. But they each had good games in the first meeting to help spark that comeback by knocking down a bunch of shots. They're not consistently big time scorer. As you can see, Thistlewood has a 15.8 shot share and a 12% usage rate. You're not going to expect him to repeat what he did. Kendall Moore, a little better numbers, but doesn't play the minutes that Thistlewood does. A little more consistent, but again, I'm probably not looking at either of those two because of the total so low. But again, John Tanji is interesting. He's just 4,000. He's got a 22% shot share. He hit the game winner. It was a 4-point play. He made the 3 and made the free throw afterwards. So someone with that type of confidence playing the same team after just doing that, maybe that's a fun dart you can throw today for $4,000 is John Tanji. For San Diego State, we talked about Matt Mitchell. That usage rate of 28.9 is the second highest on the slate, only behind Trace Jackson Davis. And for $1,200 less, I think you can really give that a nice look. Matt Mitchell's due for a good game. And Colorado State's okay defensively, but they're not elite by any stretch of the means. He averages 15.2 and 4.2, which is pretty good numbers and almost a fantasy point per minute. He's going to need to rebound a little bit more, a little bit better. But overall, I think Matt Mitchell is live. Nathan Mensah, we talked about him and his game log. So he goes 17, 46, 18, 48, 17 in his last 5 games or thereabouts. I'm not reading the numbers off of the site or anything, but that slate busting 50s to 3x 2x 17 points is a nightmare as a DFS owner. But if you were to catch some of those 50s, oh my goodness, you're cashing easy and in the running for winning this thing. Now, if he goes off on, this is an on game. So it's his turn to go for 47 again, which is going to be a big double and a lot of buckets. However, you got to pay 6,900 to take that gamble. GPP only. I definitely wouldn't sniff him in a cash lineup with that type of volatility. But again, Nate Mensah, if this team's pissed off and looking to get some revenge, maybe he does get that 50. Yeah. Are you willing to gamble? I'm leaning. I might. After the 2 forwards, Jordan Shackle has guard forward eligibility. He's a pretty good shooter, and he does a little bit of everything. Pretty reliable, team second leading scorer. You see that 23.6% shot rate at 6,200. He's squarely in play and fairly priced, I think. Terrell Gomez actually had 19 last game. He's a reserve, comes in off the bench, and really got hot shooting, and they needed it because they were getting beat. But Gomez at 5,300 coming off 19, also a pretty high shot rate. as the point guard who was supposed to take over from Malachi Flynn. I think the expectations were set a little bit high for Gomez early. He's come down a ton, and now he's starting to settle into his role. And at 5,300, he's really producing at that price. Trey Pullman, recently, he starts, plays a ton of minutes, but doesn't look to score all that much. Not really involved in the offense. So at 4,700, I want my darts to be cheaper than that. But there is one on here. Adam Seco, he's down there at 3,900. Got the start last game, played 26 minutes, had 22 DK, and at 3,900, made the most of his first start. So that's something you definitely want to take a look at. If you're playing one of those darts, not saying Seco's going to break the slate, but if you need to get those cheap guys in, then this is what you want to do, which is a phenomenal transition for myself because I got some sample lineups in here. Now, the first one we're looking at has a Cade Cunningham Trace TJD build. That's going to eat up a lot of your salary, 8,500 and 9,000. But you can easily make it work with the Hakeem Harts of the world, the Jalen Bridges of the world for 3,900, and even the Sean McNeil, the shooter for West Virginia. That's a solid little lineup there. Isaiah Stevens, we talked about in his usage. You're getting a lot of mileage there from one of the later tips at 7,400. The projection in here is 180, but that's assuming Bridges average of 6. He got 30 last time out, so essentially that's a 204 if Bridges repeats his activity. Mensa's in this lineup too, which we talked about his volatility. This is definitely a GPP lineup. It's one you could go out and break a slate with. Mensa gets 40, TJD gets 40, Bridges keeps going, everybody else does their thing. This one's cashing pretty easy. The second one on here is built around that Miles McBride and that Bryce Williams that we talked about. And it's also playing Rhodey in the 3 straight double-doubles. So you get Rhodey going in the 3 straight double-doubles. Maybe he gets another one. Matt Mitchell is, in general, due and pretty well priced. You get Jarius Hamilton, who James mentions is playing a little bit more with the injury to Morsell. So maybe you get some really nice post minutes there and make up the 4,300. A lot, Durham, solid all-around player, not going to hurt you. I like the top lineup a little bit better, but the second one definitely plays. This one has Jalen Bridges in it as well. Again, 3,900 for that type of productivity. I think it's going to be a highly owned play tonight. Can you win it without him? Yeah, you definitely can. Can he disappoint? Sure, he can. But if he disappoints at $4,000, it's not make or break in your lineup. So expect a lot of Jalen Bridges. He's in both lineups here just to show you what you can expect from him tonight, but enjoy it. Those are the 2 lineups I got. Guys, thank you for giving this a listen. We'll try to get some more YouTubes out as we move through the second half of the year in 2021. Again, Happy New Year to everybody. It's so fun to be back. We can't wait to see how conference play plays out. And God, I think Bert keeps talking about we're 8 or 9 weeks from March Madness. It doesn't even feel real. But it is. Thank you for watching. Our Twitter is at CBB_DFS. The website is www.cbb-dfs.com. Appreciate everything. Leave us a comment, leave us a like. Let us know what we can change from a format perspective. Whatever you guys think is best, and we'll make the accommodations and we'll keep things coming. All right. That's all I got for now, guys. Thank you. Bye now.